Hello aspirants, looking at current affairs for 4th November. The news items picked up from the Hindu newspaper are these 13. We'll look at them in detail. The first one, specify Aadhaar link deadlines, says Supreme Court. So Supreme Court has sent across this message that all mobile service providers and banks should send via SMS and emails the last date of linking mobile numbers and bank accounts respectively to Aadhaar. Means their deadlines have already been fixed by the central government. For linking mobile phones to Aadhaar, it is February 6, 2018, and for linking bank accounts to Aadhaar, it is December 31, 2017. So these deadlines have to be sent across to subscribers via SMS and emails. That is what the Supreme Court is saying. It has refused to pass any interim order to put a stay on this deadline. The petitioners are protesting against this because this mandatory linking, like bank accounts have to be mandatory linked to Aadhaar. If they are not linked, bank accounts will not be operational anymore. So it is your property, your money in the account, and this they claim goes against right to property, that you don't have access to your own bank account. So this is an issue being raised by petitioners, and the Supreme Court is looking into the matter, and it will be there for hearing in November. And it says that if the final order is not passed by the last date 31st December, then there can be the demand for extending the deadline. So presently it has not extended the deadline. Central government itself has in an affidavit in the Supreme Court said that it may extend the Aadhaar bank account linking deadline to beyond 31st December up to March 31, 2018. So this may happen too by central government itself. So this is the Aadhaar, mandatory Aadhaar linking issue which is there before the Supreme Court. Then the next news item is no action against note ban petitioners, Centre tells Supreme Court. So the government has assured in the Supreme Court that it will not take any criminal action for possession of demonetized notes beyond 31st December 2016 against only those who had approached the Supreme Court. So those petitioners, and for whatever amount they had approached the Supreme Court, only for that aspect the government will relax the proceedings. So this is the benefit which has been given to the petitioners as such, who had claimed that the Narendra Modi government had said on November 8, 2016, when the demonetization notification was brought forth, that the demonetization, you can deposit the demonetized notes by 31st December. But then the deadline was stopped at 30th December, and there were many petitions before the Supreme Court. Many farmers from Maharashtra, even hospitalized people who could not deposit their demonetized notes, overseas citizens, they had approached the Supreme Court that the government should extend the deadline, but the government refused to extend the deadline. And now the only assurance it is giving is that these people would not have any criminal action extended only for the demonetized money which they have specifically mentioned in their petitions. So no criminal action would be taken here. Also, we already have discussed this in November 2016 itself, in December, that at that time the Supreme Court had formed a 5-judge, in December 2016, Supreme Court formed a 5-judge constitution bench to look into the constitutionality of this demonetization notification and the legality of the implementation of this policy. So these questions have been framed by the Supreme Court 3-judge bench for this 5-judge constitutional bench, and these series of questions are listed below. So you can see the constitutional bench will still be looking into this matter. So these are listed down here, that whether demonetization is ultra vires under the provisions of RBI Act, also whether it's excessive delegation of powers which is taking place, that RBI, this demonetization is allowed under the RBI Act. Then because there was no legislative involvement in this, it was executive action. Then if the November 8 notification is going against Article 14 and 19 of the Constitution, right to equality and right to freedom, and if restriction on withdrawal of funds violates these articles. So all these list of questions are there. Whether it is subject to judicial review or not is also a question, as you can see. So this is there. Then next is Hajj subsidy to be phased out next year. So Hajj subsidy has been borne by the government and extended to Muslim pilgrims who travel to Saudi Arabia. But then this is being phased out now after the Supreme Court recommended that the government, this was a Supreme Court recommendation in 2012, that the government should phase out Hajj subsidies by 2022. So by 2018 itself, the government says that it will be phasing out Hajj subsidies. Also last year the subsidy amount was reduced to 450 crore and now this year it is expected to be reduced to almost nil. The government is saying that they would like to spend the funding on educational programs, especially for girl children of the minority community, then providing subsidy for Hajj pilgrimage. Then the next news item is Supreme Court wants norms fixed for distance education courses. So for distance education courses, the deemed to be universities which conduct distance education courses, the Supreme Court has said that the UGC has to check in commercialization here, because many such deemed to be universities which provide distance education courses are not even inspected and they are allowed to function. So this aspect is very significant and there is a need to bring in even a CBI probe in this matter, CBI investigation. So now from next academic year onwards, from 2018-19, the deemed to be universities will not be allowed to conduct distance education courses unless all their courses are approved by statutory authorities. So even for technical education, like for engineering degrees too, the statutory authorities AICT, All India Council for Technical Education. But it has been seen that it has been kept out illegally from investigating into or studying the functioning of various deemed to be universities providing such technical education courses. So this case is actually there before the Supreme Court, that how they violate norms and policies, and now the Supreme Court has ordered suspension of degrees for students enrolled during the academic session 2001 to 2005, the 4-year engineering course, and they have said that the degrees of students admitted in universities after this academic year would also be annulled. So this is the order of the Supreme Court presently in this case, and it wants all future deemed to be universities conducting all distance education courses to be approved by statutory bodies and only then allowed to be functional. So the UGC has been asked to look into this matter. Then next is DRDO successfully tests guided bomb. So this is Defense Research and Development Organization. It has successfully tested an indigenously developed lightweight glide bomb called SAW, Smart Anti-Airfield Weapons. So this anti-airfield weapon can target large enemy infrastructures like airfields. So the test was conducted that it reached a target at greater than 70 km range with high accuracies. So this was the bomb tested and the test was conducted at Chandipur in Odisha. So here there is the integrated test ring. So in Odisha here the test was conducted. Then the next news item is Judiciary knows best, Supreme Court Collegium. So when the candidates are considered for judicial appointments by the Supreme Court Collegium, the Intelligence Bureau also has a role to play. So the Intelligence Bureau conducts a background check on the candidates. So once the names are finalized, shortlisted as such for the Supreme Court Collegium, Intelligence Bureau also looks into whether they have any criminal background or any cases against them. So this background check is also done by them and it is placed before the Supreme Court. But the Supreme Court Collegium has now said that judiciary knows best. The Intelligence Bureau can look into background check and provide details, factually proven information as such to the Collegium, but they should not provide any comment on their professional competence. That will be decided solely by the Supreme Court Collegium. So whether they are professionally competent or not, that is our sole domain. So such information forwarded by the Intelligence Bureau should not be considered or should not be taken cognizance by the Collegium, is what the Supreme Court Collegium is saying in this matter. So only what information they have which is factually proven is to be considered. And we already know that the Collegium, Supreme Court Collegium, is bound to be replaced by a new system because the memorandum of procedure is being finalized, because presently Supreme Court Collegium is how judicial appointments take place, where judiciary alone decides on appointments, and now we are looking into government and judiciary working together towards appointment of judges, right? Because even NJAC, which was passed by the the legislature as such was declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court because it gave equal powers to the judiciary and the executive in appointments. The judiciary wants judicial independence to be upheld as well. So how both can work together in this matter? The Supreme Court also agrees that collegium needs to be modified. Collegium, the way appointments are taking place, they have to be improvised. So the two parts or the two branches of the government, the executive and the judiciary, are working together on formulating a new way in which appointments of judges can take place. But in the meantime, Supreme Court Collegium is the way appointments take place. Then the next news item is Pakistan faces flak over terror funding. So we already saw that Maulana Masood Azhar, he was not declared as a terrorist. He is the leader of JEM, Jaish-e-Mohammed, which is a terrorist organization under UN Security Council. But he himself was not designated as a terrorist because China vetoed this at UN Security Council. But post this, now we are seeing another international organization, FATF, Financial Action Task Force, which had its session in Buenos Aires in Argentina. Here India's proposal was raised, and now FATF has asked Pakistan to submit compliance report regarding what action it has taken against terrorist groups, because this is a Financial Action Task Force, is an organization which looks into money laundering and terror funding. So it's a 37-member voluntary group. So here again now action has been taken against Pakistan, and it has been asked to submit this compliance report during the next session in Feb 2018. Also, for the first time, Pakistan Central Bank and State Bank of Pakistan have been asked to specifically report on its work in shutting off finances to these terror groups. What has it done to curb the activities of these terror groups, which have been designated so by UN Security Council? So Pakistan has failed to take action is clear. So that is why now FATF proceedings have been initiated. China tried to defend Pakistan during these proceedings, but then in UN it has a veto. But here there are at least 2 countries required to block consensus, and China was isolated, so it could not block consensus at FATF. So FATF is actually a voluntary group. It does not have power to enforce its rulings, but it works through peer pressure and naming and shaming countries. So it's not to the liking of Pakistan to be shamed in this manner, and this is a victory for India. So here FATF, the details are provided. It's an intergovernmental body created in 1989 by the G7 nations, and it sets standards, develops and promotes policies on 2 aspects: combating money laundering and terror financing. So this is there. It has a list of recommendations which it wishes to achieve. Then next is 34 power projects defaulted on loans. So the Finance Ministry has refused to list out the 34 power projects that have defaulted on bank loans worth crores of rupees. So this question was raised by the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Energy, but it has not provided. The legislature is demanding these details, but the executive, the Finance Ministry, is refusing to provide the details. Even earlier, the RBI had also refused to provide the names of loan defaulters, because in 2016 there was a PIL petition filed in the courts by an NGO, Center for Public Interest Litigation, that RBI submit the list of around 57 defaulters who owe banks 85,000 crore. So these details were put before the Supreme Court in a sealed cover as such, but the Supreme Court also did not disclose these names because RBI argued that the rules do not permit disclosure of names held in fiduciary relationship. So this is the rule as such, and based on that RBI did not divulge names of loan defaulters, and now these power projects which have defaulted are also not being disclosed to the legislature. This is there. Even RBI has refused to entertain even RTI applications demanding the names of loan defaulters, all based on the same ground, same rules being cited. Then next is IS loses last key city, twin assaults on. So the Islamic State has now lost control of the last major city which was under its control, and this is Deir ez-Zor, which is in the oil-rich eastern part of Syria. So Syrian army, means Bashar al-Assad army, along with Russian backing, was successful in recapturing this Deir ez-Zor city. Also, Islamic State faced pressure from Iraq also. The Iraqi forces also blocked or seized the crossings of this large urban bastion, Al-Qaim, in western Iraq. So from all sides, Islamic State has been attacked. Only region of significance now it has is Al-Bukamal, which is on Syrian side of the border. So we have already discussed earlier too that how Syria and Iraq, the regions which were under Islamic State control, are now being lost. The de facto Syrian capital, Raqqa, was also captured from Islamic State, and also the US. It was the US-backed Syrian Democratic Forces, the Syrian opposition basically, along with Kurdish Arab Alliance, which were able to recapture this Raqqa, the earlier capital of Islamic State, from the IS. So this happened in October 2017. So this also shows the map. This is the Syrian country and this is Iraq. So Raqqa, Palmyra, Deir ez-Zor, Aleppo, all have been freed from Islamic State control. Mosul, Kirkuk, right? And this Al-Qaim and Deir ez-Zor are the ones in Iraq and Syria respectively, which have now been recaptured from Islamic State as such. Then next is private sector must invest in contract farming, PM. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi is asking the private sector to invest more in contract farming. So in even raw material sourcing and even creating agricultural linkages. He says there is huge opportunity here because of the global supermarket chains. They can tap on the Indian resources. India can become a major outsourcing hub as such. So even aerated drinks manufacturing companies, they have also been suggested by the Prime Minister that they consider blending 5% fruit juice in their products. So this will enhance their potential market as well, and fruit juice based drinks are part of Indian food habits. So it will be nutrition rich also and also help in agriculture in India. So nutrition rich climate smart crops can boost, their production can be boosted as such by such ventures by the private sector, the global supermarket chains as such, because coarse cereals like millets etc., they are nutrition rich as well as climate smart because they have high nutritional value and also can withstand adverse agroclimatic conditions. So there should be investment in this direction. Also, he speaks of opportunities in post-harvest management, means food processing. So food processing, storage, preservation infrastructure, cold chains, even refrigerated transportation, these needs to be developed because there is huge potential for food processing and value addition industry in India. Even organic fortified foods are very much in demand. So this is also an area in which investment is called for, is what has been looked into. He also asked the states that each state should identify at least one food product for specialization. Similarly, he demands every district should also select some food item for production and specialization. Okay. So this is a suggestion put forth for states also, for global supermarket chains, private sector, and also he speaks of other aspects of agriculture like milk production, honey production. So it speaks of even fisheries production. So blue revolution, white revolution, and even sweet revolution, in which he refers to honey. So India currently ranks 6th in production and export of honey. So there can be a sweet revolution also in place, which can enhance and the production of honey in the country. Even milk-based products can be invested in and their production levels increased. Farming, fish farming, etc., like blue revolution as it is known, that can also have huge potential. Even ornamental fishing, pearl farming are also sectors which need to be explored. This is what he's speaking of. Even organic farming is being emphasized on, especially the northeast of India. He says offers huge opportunity. There can be functional infrastructure for organic produce developed there. Also, the scheme which the government has launched, this is Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana. So this is a scheme for food processing. It aims to create world-class food processing infrastructure in the country. So he speaks of this also, how this also has huge potential, and also the government's target, as has been stated earlier too, that farming income is targeted to be doubled within 5 years. So steps need to be taken in this direction. Mega food parks need to be created. 9 such parks, the Prime Minister says, are already operational, and 30 others are also in the process of coming up. So mega food parks and this Kisan Sampada Yojana are discussed here, you can see. So there was already the central sector scheme, Sampada, scheme for agro-marine processing and development of agro-processing clusters, which has been renamed as Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana as such, and from 2016 to 2020, in these 5 years, allocation of 4 years, allocation of 6,000 crores has been provided to supplement agriculture and modernize food processing, decreasing agricultural waste as well. And this is the mega food park scheme. So mega food parks, which are, which need to be established. So there will be these central processing centers and primary processing centers, so which will be connected to this mega food park. So these primary processing centers as such will have the necessary infrastructure also for temporary storage, pre-cooling, grading, etc., packing infrastructure, and they would be linked to these field collection centers. So these blue circles are field collection centers, which will be linked to again farmers groups, SHGs, and individual farmers. So through them, they'll be collecting farm produce, which will be going to primary processing centers and eventually to mega food parks. And these mega food parks will have their connectivity for providing fresh products also in domestic retail sales, and also for value addition, so which can be even exported or go for domestic sales as well. So this is the mega food park model which has been implemented in the country as well. Then next is PMI shows acceleration in October services sector activity. So we already saw PMI, Purchasing Managers Index, for manufacturing sector, and now this is Purchasing Managers Index for services sector, which again comes up every month. And this, as we said, for manufacturing also, for services also, this is a private sector survey. This is not government data. And the same thing, 50 is the reading. Above 50 means expansion in the economy, below 50 means contraction. So for last month, for the month of August, it was 51.7, and now it is, for the month of October, it was 51.7, and now and earlier for September, it was 50.7. So in manufacturing, we saw for October, the reading went down, but in services, the reading has gone up for the next month. So an expansion is seen here in services sector. So this is being shown here, the entire details about the monthly details of services PMI. Then next is ozone hole shrivels to smallest since 1988. So the ozone hole over Antarctica has shrank to its smallest since 1988. So this ozone hole reached its maximum in September 2017 actually. And since then it has been shrinking. And this year's maximum hole, it was actually more than twice as big as US. But then it was lesser than last year. So it has already peaked, and now it is shrinking. So this is what is of significance, that it is shrinking. But then this shrinking is also due to natural phenomena. So the stormy conditions in the upper atmosphere actually, they warm the air, and the chemicals like chlorine and bromine are kept from eating the ozone layer. So the stormy conditions in the upper atmosphere are responsible for the ozone hole shrinking. However, we have already had a treaty also, the Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete the ozone layer. This 1987 treaty has also banned ozone depleting substances, and that has also seen to be successful. So this is in news that though this is also the case, ozone layer is being shrinking because of this natural phenomena of stormy conditions as such as well. So this is there. You should know that ozone, it is a colorless combination of 3 oxygen atoms. So it's an allotrope of oxygen only. Oxygen is O2. This is ozone, O3. And ozone, the significance of this is that it shields the earth from ultraviolet rays that cause cancer, crop damage, and other problems. So it's located in the stratosphere layer of the atmosphere. So this is the earth. The first layer, troposphere, extends up to 10 km, and in stratosphere here the ozone layer is located. And we are seeing the ozone layer, the ozone being depleted and an ozone hole being created, and this is above the Antarctica. So there is depleted ozone present in the stratosphere above Antarctica, and this happens specifically during the season of spring in the southern hemisphere. This is the South Pole here, you can see. So during the spring in southern hemisphere, means from August to October, the ozone depletion takes place here. And this is the detail regarding how the ozone depleting substances react and result in ozone being depleted. They break up the ozone molecule and this ozone depletion takes place. So these are the ozone depleting chemicals: CFCs, HCFCs, halogens, methyl bromide, which are used for various purposes, and now they have been banned under the Montreal Protocol. And this is the further detail provided here too. Now this also explains why the ozone hole is above Antarctica, because Antarctica is not the continent where maximum emission of such ozone depleting chemicals are taking place. The chlorine based chemicals like we saw, CFCs, HFCs, they are not released here. But then why ozone hole is being seen in this region? So the explanation is given here that Antarctica, basically in the south, near the South Pole, it is the coldest place on Earth. It gets very little direct sunlight and the temperatures are very cool here. So very low temperatures are here, because of which these polar stratospheric clouds develop. So these clouds, actually the chemical reactions which take place, so all the accumulation of these chlorine molecules actually takes place here. The chemical reactions occurs on the surface of these ice crystals in the polar stratospheric clouds, and they release the destructive chlorine in the ozone layer in the stratosphere. So then when actually sunlight comes back during springtime in the Antarctic region, at that time the chlorine becomes active and it results in ozone depletion. And then again, when eventually the ice crystals, they evaporate as the air is heating up, the destruction of ozone layer again halts. So this is the situation because of which ozone hole is seen. Then the next news item is the last one. Scientists discover 7th great ape species in Indonesia. So this is the species of orangutans, which are these apes with orange fur and remarkable vocal abilities. They share 97% of DNA with humans. So the 97% of our DNA is common with the orangutans. There are 6 species of these great apes, that is Eastern and Western African gorillas, chimpanzees, bonobos, and even the 2 species of orangutans in Borneo and Sumatra in Indonesia. But now a 7th great ape species has been discovered, that is Tapanuli orangutan from another region of Indonesia, Sumatra. So these are endangered species. Some of them are even critically endangered. So you should know about orangutans and the great apes here. This is the image. So these are the news items. Thank you.